There is no shadow that can ever overcome your light. There is no rival that could ever stand against your might. You've always been with us. Every battle you've already won. You've already won. There is no weapon that has ever left a mark on you. And there is no army, declare it, with the power to conquer truth. You've always been with us. Every battle you've already won. You've already won. Show me one thing you can't do. Show me a mountain you can't move. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. Show me one thing that's too hard. Show me waters he can't part. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. It's possible. And there is a kingdom that is dancing at the speed of light. And in this kingdom, every dead thing is bound to rise. Oh God, our Redeemer, He is faithful to revive. Oh, He will revive. Yeah. Show me one thing you can't do. Show me a mountain you can't move. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. Show me one thing that's too hard. Show me waters he can't part. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. It's possible. Oh, all of my fear I will turn into praise. Shake off despair as I sing out your name. A victory dance, I will dance out in faith. I will crush disappointment and break every chain. Oh, all of my fear I will turn into praise. Shake off despair as I sing out your name. A victory dance, I will dance out in faith. I will crush disappointment and break every chain. Oh, all of my fear I will turn into praise. Shake off despair as I sing out your name. A victory dance, I will dance out in faith. I will crush disappointment. Show me one thing you can't do. Show me a mountain you can't move. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. Show me one thing that's too hard. Show me waters he can't part. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. It's
Okay, I'm a rat.
I see.
Okay.
Oh.
Got That's what that's for?
Oh, all right. Okay.
Oh, turn it off when you're done. Okay.
Oh, okay. In the basket.
Huh.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Oh, okay.
Welcome to New Life, people becoming the church online, wherever you're streaming from, watching, listening, you're on a jog, you're driving your kids to school, however. I want you to know this is your church. We think this is a church. This is actually, like you're somewhere and it's not here. So that is the church. By the way, you're like, however you're kind of absorbing this, you're a part of a church that's bigger than you across the world. And that's what this is. And so this is people becoming the church. This isn't a pastor becoming the church. This isn't just one area in the United States becoming. This is people becoming the church. And so I hope you feel a part of that. I hope you know you are a part of that. I hope we're campus. This is the church. And so one of the things you'll notice is there's a chat. In that chat, there are people who want to pray with you, who want to walk beside you, get you connected. And I just think that's really important. So my name is Brian. And we're in a series, Love Where You Live. And I want to pause briefly just to kind of say, one of the things we want to do is say, okay, how do we look at not only where we live, but look at how we live in our moment in history. And we want to look at a really important book or journal in Scripture. We want to take those and kind of overlap them and then say, okay, Jesus, what do you have next for us? So super honored. If you're watching this at any point, kind of like it's Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day. Or you're like, Mother's Day was yesterday, happy Mother's Day. You're like, it was tomorrow, but happy Mother's Day. I don't know. So you're like, I was 3 weeks ago. Okay, happy Mother's Day then. I don't know. It's so good to be able to have a moment to celebrate together. But today we get to do that.
We get to do this
We're
together.
married,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
They seem like they're close. Well, we are. So
the closest you can get.
One of the what I love you did is you had a couple things, because our daughter Kennedy's 2.5.
Yeah.
We have a little boy named Rocky.
He's fresh. He's 12 weeks.
He's a freshie.
Yeah.
And so just, I don't know, your heart either as a mom or just like even some of the things you wrote down from what your heart is for our church. Share a little bit of that because I felt passion when you started to share because I was like, that's it. And that's the church I want our daughter to grow up in.
Yeah. Well, my name's Kayla. If we haven't met, I'm probably a newer face to our online community, but man, it's so fun to watch every week people commenting and connecting with each other. But happy Mother's Day. And man, Brian, as I just started to think through our church and this holiday, more than just honoring mothers, I think it's a moment for our online community and for us as a church to honor women. To honor women for where they're at in whatever season of life they're at on this day. And so as I was just sitting back and reflecting, man, I came to New Life for the first time. I got involved in a group when I was 18 and I turned 30 last week, so it's been a couple years. And as I was just reflecting on celebrating this holiday and all the years of honestly feeling like I've grown up in this church and I've gotten to have so many amazing conversations and had so many moments of prayer and of Bible study with women in our church. And I feel like God just put on my heart like 5 words that I think describe our church, the women in our church so well. And so can I share them with you? Okay, the first one, I think women in our church, they're just generous. Like the first thing that came to my mind was generous. Like I was a young 18-year-old, was wanting to follow the Lord and had no idea how to do it. And people were generous with their time, with their talent, and with their treasure and investing into my life. And I would not be the person that I am today without it. The second thing I thought of was this, that women in our church, they're brave. Like I was just talking with a friend last week and she was saying that, man, her daughter just got referred to a new neurologist at Children's Hospital in Seattle because they are just trying to figure out what is going on in her little girl's body. Like there's a sickness, they can't figure it out. And everywhere I turn in our church, they're just brave women that aren't afraid of things that might be happening to their family or happening in their community. But no, they're looking at every moment like that as an opportunity for the gospel to win. The third thing I thought of is creativity. Like, we have some of the most creative women in our church. Go here, they're creative. They feel like the Spirit of God has put something inside of them, not just to hold on to, but to share with the world. The fourth thing is just authentic. I think more than ever, man, my Wednesday nights, I spend time with hundreds of teenagers, and a lot of them are women, they're girls, and they're trying to figure this all out. And the number one thing I think this next generation is looking for in leadership is authenticity. And I think our church, I'm just so proud of the women. We're not afraid to be authentic, and we're not afraid to show each other our struggles and to carry each other's burdens. And the fifth thing I thought was they're just strong. Women in our church are strong. And I've just seen that so much in my life, and it's impacted me. And happy Mother's Day, and we just honor the women in our church.
Well, I love, I think it was you or somebody said, I was just like, for Mother's Day, like, please don't just give me a piece of chocolate.
Yeah.
Like, speak words over me. And so I was like, that is so beautiful. And so maybe, I'm just looking at your list here, and by the way, you're like, maybe I could have the words in chocolate. That's fine.
That's fine. You should.
That's probably me. So, but I do think maybe take these words and write them down. I mean, beautiful. Or you're like, I don't feel like I'm a part of this church yet, but like, wow, I would like to become this. So it's like, this isn't a club. This isn't like the doors are closed. We're like, this is us, and we're really close. So it's like, I think that is you. And I think you do want to be a part of that. And so thank you. I think that's the church that I want my daughter Kennedy to grow up in. And so happy Mother's Day. I think this actually fits perfectly with what we're diving into. So by the way, if you're like, I kind of want to catch some of the wave it looks like you guys are riding, newlife.tv/love where you live. So a couple things there. One of the things you'll notice is there's a map. There's a big map. You can scroll out, it just keeps getting bigger. And on that map, there are pins. And those are people who have actually said, I commit to loving where I live.
Yeah.
You'll also notice that there's a PDF, kind of a digital version of some of the content that we have. It's workbook style. It'd be the type of thing that, like, it'd be great if maybe you started it alone, but then it'd be hard not to get together with other people and just start to say, like, okay, so what did you write down? I mean, if you're married, this is the thing that you're going to be like, let's look at it together. You do it with your kids, your family, but honestly, like, friends. It's not, I wouldn't say it's written in a way that's like people who are like, I'm not a part of the church yet, or I don't know about Jesus. It wouldn't be off-putting, because it's really like, how do we make a difference in our community? And so you can grab the PDF. If you're like, I'm local and I'd like to swing by, grab it, great. Like, say that in the chat, we'll get one to you. If you're like, hey, I'm not local, but like, Brian, I just would like you to mail it to me. Like, I would do that. So many of you, I have mailed you things, so just like, I would put this in the mail, I would stamp it, and I would get it to you. So I think it's that important. So you'll notice all of that there, and then at the end there is a commitment. And as you sign that, you put your name on the map. You're like, well, what does that do? It's like, it shows us that this is a really big thing God's doing. So can you imagine, like, as we scroll out, at some point you're like, wow, there is Guatemala, and there's like, I have a friend, she's in Ohio. She was talking about Love Where You Live this morning to me. Awesome. I have a friend in St. Louis. I was on the phone with him. He's like, I'm talking about Love Where You Live. And he was like, I'm kind of jealous because I want to live where you live because I love that. And I was like, well, you're in St. Louis, so you have an arch.
Figure it out.
So, but I do think it's important, and I love, if you haven't got a chance to kind of catch up on the series, the first week, Jenny had this line, she challenged me where she's just like, listen, it's easy for you and your personality because you're positive and you just get excited about stuff, and you guys are like, it's like a Labrador puppy. It's easy to watch you get excited. You're like, I love where I live. This is great. She's like, I'd be convinced that's not most people. And maybe the hard work for a personality like me is to do some of the emotional digging to say, okay, what are the things that are broken in our society, the things broken in our culture, and God, how can you fix them? For others of us, it's like we are really aware of what's broken. I was with a friend last night. He's just like, it's obvious. Like, we all drive by it. How do we start to turn the needle to say, as a group, we're going to love where we live? So all of that. I wanted to start, though, we're in a book, Nehemiah, more than a book, it's his journal. So give us a little bit about, like, I don't know, your heart for loving where you live, why this series matters to you, and then I like to say maybe Nehemiah's story in less than a minute, or just like, what is this about?
What I love about this whole series is Love Where You Live. It's all about, we're reading the book of Nehemiah, and I love the he journals, because Brian, we live together. I love to journal.
You do.
I have so many journals.
I say you're good at it.
Thank you. And man, I was just thinking through, what would it look like for you if you took the next week, the next 2 weeks, the next maybe 16, 15 days. It's actually, I think the walls were rebuilt in 52 days. What if you took the next 52 days and you just started to maybe just a sentence a day, and you started to write down, God, what are you doing and what do you want to do in my community? Would you give me eyes to see, to love where I live? Because like you said, I don't think everyone feels like that. But I wonder what God's going to do from the beginning to end of this series about if you started to specifically journal, what would he do?
Well, that's so, I hadn't thought about that. That's true. I don't journal. And I don't know, it's not that I want to.
Yeah.
Like so many of you, I'm assuming I'm connecting with some people out there. I want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to make my bed. I don't.
Do you feel your pressure to like script it all out?
Yeah. I do. No, I do feel that. I feel pressure that like I just can't sit and write.
Yeah,
So, but then to train us.
Yeah.
How do you journal and like why where do you be like, I've got it. Like I'm going to journal. How do you do it?
Yeah. I just write down all the questions that I'm thinking about. I think that God, more than anything, is looking for action, and he's also looking for you to just be brave enough to ask him a question. Like, what is going on in the deepest part of you, and how are you in your community to make a difference?
So
I would just ask.
You're asking questions, and then you're answering those questions.
Yeah. And I'm watching God answer.
Maybe all of you out there, put it in the chat, maybe all of you are like, I'm great at journaling. So I haven't experienced that. I'm trying to cross into that.
Okay, yeah, that's what I do.
Okay, so Nehemiah is a guy.
Yeah.
He writes a journal.
Yes. And he's literally looking at his community and he's saying, we have some rebuilding to do. Man, I think that we're looking at our communities after the last 2 years and we're thinking this. We're thinking, man, I think God wants us to help rebuild, to have a fresh start, to move forward, to have vision. And so we pick up today in Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 11. And literally it's this, that Nehemiah is getting an assignment. He sees it. He feels like he's got a passion to rebuild some walls. Now the temple has already been rebuilt, but now he's looking around. He's like, we got to complete the whole project. It's kind of like if your whole house has been super deep cleaned, but then all of a sudden, like you haven't put all your laundry away. Like it's not quite all that it needs to be. And so that's where we pick up today.
Okay, so Nehemiah, he has a job, cupbearer to the king. You're like, I've missed that. Okay, so go back.
Yeah,
so you can watch those messages. So we heard that. And then we're like, okay, so he's not only the cupbearer, but his heart there's a sense of emotion that he's like, this is breaking my heart. And the walls of my city are in ruins. And you just like picture your city, like how you care. So then we saw last week that not only is it like he's the cupbearer to the king, but actually there's a sense of boldness that he goes and says like, hey, I want to be able to take this. I want to take this job. And not only do I want the job, I actually have an elevator pitch for like how I think God is going to work through a group of people in a moment of time. And so if you didn't see that message, go back and watch it. So this week, I love that you titled it Teammates.
Yeah.
Why? And then what does show us? Yeah,
I think, a part of the text, and we'll read it here in a minute, is Nehemiah feels called to do something in his community, but he knows he can't do it alone, and he wouldn't even be the right leader if he wanted to do it alone. And I think sometimes for a lot of us, we feel like maybe God's stirring something in our hearts, or maybe we're supposed to go and be obedient and do something, or maybe some of us, we sit down and we have a blank piece of paper and we're like, God, I don't even know what to do. I don't even feel brave enough to do anything on my own. Good news, we're not supposed to do it alone. We read that over and over in the Gospels that we're not supposed to do the mission alone. And so Nehemiah finds his teammates, he goes and assesses the walls, and he said, we're going to do something about this. So should we read together?
Yeah, I do think it's good to pull it up. And for those of you that are just like, one of the things I'm hoping that happens over the course of this next 8 weeks is you don't read Nehemiah once. I'm actually hoping that, we'll circle the text today, but I'm actually hoping this gets in your spirit. Maybe you're like, there's a sense of weekly just reading through Nehemiah. And so let's dive into it.
Cool. Okay, it's Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 11 through 20. It's titled Nehemiah Inspects Jerusalem's Walls. So I arrived in Jerusalem. I love it's a journal. 3 days later, I slipped out during the night, taking only a few others with me, and I had not told anyone about the plans God had put in my heart. I loved that part. I circled that. For Jerusalem, we took no pack animals with us except for the donkey I was riding. What a chosen animal. After dark, I went out through the valley gate, past the Jeckel's wall, and over the dung gate to inspect the broken walls and burdened gates. Then I went to the fountain gate and to the king's pool, but my donkey couldn't get through the rubble. I love that. That goes in a journal. Like we hit a little bit of a road bump there.
Yeah.
Glad
Like,
he
how
wasn't
bad
alone.
was it? Donkey couldn't get through.
It's like your Tesla runs out of charge.
Yeah.
That is, So though it was still dark, I went up to the Kidron Valley instead, inspecting the wall before I turned back and entered again at the valley gate. The city officials did not know I had been out there or what I was doing. For I had not yet said anything to anyone about my plans. I had not yet spoken to the Jewish leaders, the priests, the nobles, the officials, or anyone else in the administration. But now I said to them, you will know very well what kind of trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and the gates have been destroyed by fire. Let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem and end this disgrace. Then I told them about how the gracious hand of God had been on me and about my conversation with the king. They replied at once, yes, let's rebuild the wall. So they had began the good work.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot here, and it's interesting how he's really kind of like he is kind of a secret agent.
Yes,
he's like,
yes.
I'm going in.
Yeah.
So I don't know, what, as you've been like studying it, what stuff is it like immediately that jumped out to you or you noticed?
Well, I think I wrote down the big idea, just to boil it down, is you can't rebuild by yourself at a distance. And so the first thing he decides to do is he's getting people together, he's loading up the donkey, and he's like, let's go check this out. Like, we can't just sit far back, and we can't sit without being present in our communities and trying to rebuild something. Like, everybody's got to have skin in the game. We've all got to be able to do this. And I think what really stuck out to me in this passage is that he's not going around right away and casting a vision. He's going around and just quietly, it says quietly walking around and inspecting things. He's not trying to draw a bunch of attention to himself. He's just saying, let's go and let's really look at the problem and let's gather data and information. All my data collectors, you're like, yes, this is us.
Yeah, he's got a Google Doc.
Yes, he's got a Google Doc. Yeah, which isn't my strength.
An Excel spreadsheet.
Yes, and he's walking around and he's thinking this. He's thinking, man, we've got to get up close and see this for real before we actually want to.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I probably noticed as I was reading is like, do I drive my city? And do I drive my city with those eyes?
Yeah.
And so I'm learning over the course of the series. So one, I probably do drive my city, but I have an outlook that tends to be silver lining.
Yeah.
So now I need to kind of allow God to break my heart. The thing that I was just reading here that started to convict me is I need to drive my city and think, who else can I collaborate with that also wants to be involved? So I got a friend who's just like, I love this heart. I was just like, he said it and I was like, man, that is this series.
Yeah.
He said, there's a homeless encampment. It's like if I could turn the camera right now, I'd show you. It's like right over there. And it's an encampment that's just kind of grown over the pandemic, which makes sense. You like, what happens when there's a housing crisis? So there's dominoes, and at some point you're like, well, this person's gonna get a house, so this person so at some point there's somebody that loses at the end, right? Yes. So you're like, people don't have houses, and so this encampment or kind of area has grown, and it's right in the center of the city. So I don't know what your city center looks like. This is the center of the city. And he said some of his friends were there talking about this kind of like, problem in the city. And it was friends like, man, I just wish we could move them. And it's so interesting, I'm a person's heart probably, I don't, but my friend said, he said, well, it's so interesting. I don't think I want to move them. I think I want to actually be a part of solving the problem of housing.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's beautiful because he said, I want to partner with others and I want to get all the people who don't agree around the city around the same table.
Yeah.
So that is a little bit of what Nehemiah is doing here.
Totally.
And so what I guess what other things did you notice or did you like pulled out? And then what is it that's like we're writing down today, or you're like, hey, some key thoughts that really are going to drive it home?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I wrote down is get close to where it hurts, which sounds so pretty. Like you can write that in your journal, like let's get close to where it hurts. Let's drive by those places. Let's go and find out stories. Let's not just complain about something that we don't want to do anything about in our communities. I just wonder how much time we spend sometimes verbal processing about some hurt that we see, but we never actually get close enough to like actually make a difference. And so that's the first thing I wrote down, is just get close to where it hurts. Is there something that God's put on your heart this week? And maybe it's something as little as walking up and picking up garbage at your kid's school as you go to drop them off. Or maybe it's paying for the person's coffee behind you in line, or I don't know what it is, but let's get close this week to see those opportunities to help heal where it hurts.
And Nehemiah, he does that. And he's like, he's like, his donkey gets stuck.
Yeah, which hurts.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so then what else?
The second thing I wrote down is just start doing good. Like, just start. Sometimes I think that we can get overwhelmed, and you know me really well. Like, I want to do all the things all the time, and I want to do it to the best of my ability. And sometimes that means that I won't even start or won't even attempt something if I can't do it to the greatest capacity that I feel called to do it. which then oftentimes it makes me miss out on what I think God's actually calling me to do, which isn't to do anything by myself, but how do I get others involved? But I get stuck feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Did
It's
you
a
ever
good,
feel
no, it's a good
overwhelmed?
balance. It's a good balance.
Yeah.
I think part of it is like, for you and I, it goes back to how we played sports.
Yes.
So you did. I mean, you were like collegiate level, and you played in such a way that like your teams did really well, and you pushed yourself. But sometimes that was also like
detrimental.
negative.
Yeah. You're like, are you sleeping? Are you eating?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a good balance
Yes.
because so someone said this last week, and I was like, that is really interesting. So they're like, it's only fun to be on teams that win because you win.
Yeah.
I was like, so I was never on that team.
No.
I was on the team that always had fun.
Yeah. Oh,
So we had a lot of fun.
No.
You're like,
You
did we
play
win?
to win.
Did we win? We didn't win anything.
No,
but I was
no,
like, the most fun. They're like, well, you won't try out the next year. No,
Yes.
we all did
No.
because we were like, this is a lot of fun.
We have fun. We're
I
together.
played on a basketball
Yeah.
team, and
Yeah.
like that was our whole goal.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, we maybe just should have been like, but that was
Why
it.
did you wear the jersey? Okay.
You know, that's such a good question.
Okay.
And so, but I do wonder, so one of the things I think you're saying is just as you are getting other people together, isn't that interesting that there's this like, you don't have every aspect of the team, and that's why team is so important.
Yes.
And there's the sense of humility of like putting yourself down to be able to like have, I love that.
Yeah. The third thing I wrote down is invite others to do the work with you. And it's really interesting this week, I read an article just about how bad loneliness is growing and becoming and has just become so prevalent. And I think we came out of, a 2-year stint and are coming out of isolation with COVID and with all the mandates and just all the different complexities of our modern day world right now. But this article was just painting the picture of how lonely people still are. And it was interesting, in this article that I read, it gave the top 2 strategies if you feel like you're coping with loneliness. I'm going to read them to you. The first one was talk to strangers. Just talk to them this week. Like, there are built-in moments where you can have a connection with someone that like you don't even have to be their best friend. So some examples it gave was reach out to other humans by saying hello when you're getting your coffee or when you're waiting in line. And I just think that goes back to like, just be present where you are. You might feel alone, but that doesn't always mean that you have to feel lonely. And so look up, who is God going to put in your path this week that you might see every day, but like God's saying, yes, you see them every day because I want you to be in their life. I'm doing a good work. Get close to where it hurts. The second thing it said to fight loneliness was stop focusing so much on you. Which but if you're dealing with that and like if you're trying to figure all that out and you're trying to invite others to do something with you but not think about yourself, it just said do something for someone else immediately. Like post on Facebook, start a fundraiser, make t-shirts that cheer someone else on. You might not even know them that well. But those are the top 2 strategies and said if you're facing loneliness, these are the top 2 things that you can do this week to help yourself not feel like you're in it alone. And so who this week is God going to help you invite to do the mission with? And that's Nehemiah was so good at that. He presents his plan, but then immediately in the text, it's like then all these people together collectively say, yes, let's rebuild the wall. Like everyone is like, we can all do our part. Let's do this together. They're clearly identifying like, yeah, you can't do that by yourself.
And they do it in
52 days.
52 days. So like as we kind of land the plane, as we're just like having a moment to be like, okay, I'm challenged. I hope I'm inspired, encouraged. What is it for you for love, or like maybe for us, what is it for Love Where You Live that's like connecting? It's the driver for your heart. That you're like, this is why I care.
Yeah. Well, we moved about a year ago to Tacoma. We bought a place. God totally blew us out of the water and provided. And we weren't planning on moving, but it just felt like this is where God's calling us. And so we live in Tacoma now and are a part of the team here. But what's been so fun is it, in a lot of ways, has felt like a whole new season of learning our neighbors' names. And like for the first time in a long time, I'm starting to have some friends that are interested in Jesus, but have no faith community, no church family, have none of those things. And so for Love Where You Live, I think I'm just praying daily, God, would you give me eyes to continue to invite people in to do life with me and with our family and together in our community. And God, would you show us, because if we love where we live, that you would provide opportunities for us to serve the people that we interact with daily. And so the action that I just wrote down for us for this week is pray for God to show you your teammates.
Yeah, what I love on that is it might be right now you have names. You're like, I'm gonna write these names down. God, and some of them might be kind of like, you're like, that'd be crazy. It should be. It was crazy for Nehemiah.
Yeah.
The other is you're like, I don't have names, and that's a little bit discouraging. Well, would you do this? Would you just draw some blank lines? You might even put question marks on those and just pray, Jesus, would you start to show me these people?
Yeah.
And I think God will start to put them in front of you.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're like, I don't live around you. Tacoma was the kind of place that's just like, it felt far out.
Yeah.
It was like, it's a big city.
Yeah.
It's I think of it kind of like Oakland. Like there's San Francisco, and there's Oakland, and Oakland started to have kind of a moment. There was like a lot of people were moving there out of San Francisco, and so that's Tacoma to Seattle.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a booming metropolis, and we just love it. And so I wanted to do this. I wanted to read for you the Love Where You Live commitment. I hope that this is something that you just say like, okay, this is going to be a part of my next season. But I just said, Brian and Kayla, commit to not complain, sit on the sidelines, or wish I was somewhere else. Instead, I will pray, Jesus, may your kingdom come and your will be done in Tacoma as it is in heaven. So let's pray today. Jesus, we know that you are the center of this story. So you're the center of all of this, of us rebuilding, and there's some rebuilding to do in our hearts, in our families, our neighborhoods, on our street, our cities, in our nation, in our world. And we're going to trust you, God, that through your voice, your spirit, your guiding, you're going to put us around the right people. Some of the people we don't know yet, some of them are dear friends. Some of them are just like, it's people that we never expect to hear your voice, but God, you're speaking to them. So continue that good work all around the world, from Ohio to St. Louis, from Guatemala to London. Do the great work you're doing of rebuilding and reestablishing who we are as your people. We thank you so much that this weekend we celebrate women in our life.
Yeah.
The pillars of our families, of our churches, and we just celebrate them. And we thank you that we get to set a precedent for our own daughters of what the world gets to look like in your kingdom. Amen.